been driving all day in the NEXO hydrogen vehicle, which you might have seen advertising campaigns for. There's two in the country now, and they're literally hydrogen powered. They've got a little hydrogen refueling station in Auckland. They're not really game to tell us exactly where that hydrogen fueling station is. I suggested maybe next door to a kindergarten is the reason they don't want to say anything about it, but I'm only guessing. Just drives like an electric car, really. It's quite impressive in terms of it has the same sort of torque factor, it has the same sort of instant response from the accelerator. Feels a little bit more lighter, perhaps. Maybe the lack of a big plate of batteries underneath the floors sort of changes the weight distribution in the car. No price, of course, yet. There's only two of them in the country. There's an entire sort of queries around how they're actually going to be able to service and refuel hydrogen vehicles. The idea, of course, being that it's a very quick refuel and it's just water out the tailpipe. Some companies, Hyundai and Toyota among them, both feel that this is actually the next step. This is the sort of the leapfrog over conventional battery electric vehicles. Just been out to Fiordland, Milford Sound to be exact. Drove through the really dodgy Homer Tunnel, up into the sort of alpine area. Obviously seen the word Fiordland on a map all my life, but until I was actually there, I was like, oh, I get it now. It actually looks like Norway. It's an amazing place. I've always loved Central Otago, but man, I think Fiordland turns it up to 11. Should point out, I'm currently driving to Queenstown. I have 129 kilometres left of range. After that point, I hate to say this, but this car will be put onto the back of a diesel-powered truck and driven all the way back to Auckland to be refueled. So in this circumstance, it's not particularly carbon credit friendly, but maybe something will happen in the future in terms of the infrastructure. The power output from this car, from the hydrogen power source, is 120 kilowatts and about 395 newton meters of torque. Yeah, 395 newton meters of torque. I should have trusted myself. With the hydrogen refueling, it gives you about a 600 kilometer range. It takes about 5 minutes to fill. Now, 600 kilometer range can't be done with an EV yet. I think Tesla are up around the claimed 500k. But of course, the difference with the Tesla is that it takes about 40 minutes to fill to 100% of the battery. So this thing is pretty revolutionary. Being a fuel cell car, it's an alternative energy vehicle, and the only emission from it is water vapour from the little plastic tailpipe out the back. The car itself is it's quite nice, although I must say this centre console is very buttony. There's lots of buttons everywhere. It's kind of like somebody's idea of what a future car might look like 5 years ago. If you look at the Tesla Model 3 as an example, there's not a single button in the thing. This thing is it's just like a big 80s double tape cassette deck. Pedals in this car don't work to change gears, they work to change the degree of regeneration. So I can change it between 1 and 3, I believe, and it just gives more of a sort of slows the car up more as you take your foot off the accelerator, putting power back into the battery. Oh, and it does have a battery, so the hydrogen is essentially what's powering the car. There is a battery on board which gives it a bit of a boost. So it's a weird sort of hybrid in terms of alternative fuels between the battery electric and the hydrogen. There's less weight in this car, so it feels a little bit bouncier and jouncier around corners. It kind of doesn't have that settled mass that electric vehicles tend to have, thanks to the big battery packs under the floor. There's 3 bottles of hydrogen in this car. They run long ways across the back of the two behind the back axle and one just in front of the back axle. Of course, here's the thing about the NEXO, and it's interesting because Hyundai talk about this car like you can buy it right now. You see the advertisements for it. The presentation that the media got on it yesterday featured detail right down to colour sways and different leather interior trim options, all that sort of stuff. You can actually buy it or lease it overseas, in South Korea naturally, as well as in the US and parts of Europe. You can't here, and the likelihood that you ever will be able to at the moment is kind of thin. The problem is it's not supply. It's not even a left-hand drive, right-hand drive issue. Hyundai could probably get 100 of these things on a boat next month if they really put their mind to it. The problem is infrastructure. You can't refuel it. There is not a single hydrogen refueling station in New Zealand. Oh, sorry, I tell a lie. There is one. It's owned by Hyundai New Zealand, and it's in a secret location, and it's in their words not fit for public use. Now I don't know what that means. I can only assume it means there's lots of high-vis vests required to enter it, refuel cars and so on. So why are Hyundai New Zealand bothering? Well, part of it's probably because Hyundai Global told them to, but they do get pretty passionate about this sort of stuff. They are very proud of these cars. But I think what's going to happen, and what you might see, and there seems to be a big push from overseas, is that those things, buses, there's a big heavy transport market overseas for trucks and buses to run on hydrogen. Hydrogen bottles take up less room and weigh less than conventional battery packs, and of course for a average truck driver in New Zealand, getting a couple of 100 k's further than a full battery electric truck might be able to get is pretty vital. And of course Hyundai has a badge that sits on the nose of buses and light trucks overseas and both in New Zealand as well. So potentially I think there could be a bit of an investment, a bit of a future-proofing exercise in terms of the big stuff. It's whether that stuff translates down to the passenger cars remains to be seen.